For as long as we keep staying shrouded within our darkness and our disbelief and our negative thinking patterns, we won't get closer to what we truly want. But you have the choice to change whenever you want to. Hello, beautiful people. My name is Taya, and this is my channel, Taya Finds Temperance. Today's video is about how to become spiritually enlightened. And I'm bringing this up not because I feel like I am any sort of guru or any person that even identifies directly with being spiritually enlightened. But a couple of weeks ago, I had this experience where I was talking to this young man. I was telling him about how I work at a spiritual retreat, and he made some kind of a remark, something like, how do you become enlightened, or like, are you, or I can't remember exactly, but immediately my response was, I already am enlightened. And like I said it with such confidence and such ease. And I was thinking about it afterwards. I was like, where did that come from? And why did it feel so natural? Why did it didn't feel like a cocky thing to say. It wasn't like I was trying to prove anything. It was rather just a quick reaction to what he said. But the way that this just flew out, it just felt like, oh yeah, maybe I am to a certain degree. And I just wanted to share some thoughts about that today. So I think generally when we think of someone who is, so to speak, enlightened, we think of Jesus or Buddha or someone who lived an extraordinary life that is so different from what most of us have today, and is so different from what most of us want today. And so it's really easy to think that enlightenment is something that's out of our reach, and it's not even fathomable because the people who have achieved it seem to be on such a different level than we are. Yet I would argue that enlightenment should be something that all of us strive for, and in fact all of us are capable of having, even if we still value material things, or even if we still live in the world that we do today. Being spiritually enlightened doesn't necessarily mean that you have to live a certain way. It doesn't mean that you have to meditate for 4 hours each day. It doesn't mean that you have to renounce all of your possessions and renounce your name. Being enlightened isn't something that you have to do superficial things for. It's actually just a state of being. And like any state of being, it fluctuates, which is why I feel that truth that I was enlightened came to me. It sounds ridiculous to say. I really, truly don't think I'm more special than anyone by saying this. I don't think I have something that anybody else has. I don't think that I have more value. I don't think I am Jesus or Buddha or anybody. I am just here, and I am living this experience as me. All I'm saying is that I think we have put enlightenment in such a specific box, and I think we're all a lot closer to it than we think we are. And a lot of us have already reached it to a certain degree. If enlightenment isn't this abstract idea that feels so far away from us, then what is it? Well, if we break down the word enlightenment, to me that means something that we have now shed light upon. Something is from the dark to the light. Now we understand it better. We have shown a light on it, so it is no longer mysterious but understood. What are we putting light on? Well, usually people use the word enlightenment together with the word spiritual, which is in the context which I'm speaking of it today. Spiritual enlightenment. The spiritual aspects of life have been shed light upon. What is spirituality even? Spirituality is the unseen aspects of the world. The forces. This can be the natural forces. This can be the universal forces. This can be our internal forces. And this happens all the time. It was happening through religion. Now we have science. And if you look at a lot of the stories about religion and science, they all share similar roots. And so spirituality will converge with science in the end, because spirituality deals with how to understand and connect with other forces in our universe. For example, you see manifestation a lot, which is just understanding the laws of assumption and attraction and magnetism. Mainstream science hasn't proven such things as manifestation yet, although quantum mechanics and quantum theory type of studies is getting really close to it, and is in a lot of ways. And so these things are really not different. So again, back to what does this have to do with being spiritually enlightened? Well, point is, we are enlightening ourselves all the time, even if it is through scientific means or more personal means, where we're learning about ourselves and we're learning how to connect with God or Creator or the universe, whatever you want to call it. For me, being enlightened just means that you've reached a certain level where you're starting to understand a lot of key concepts. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you're perfect all the time. I'm sure there are people who are really perfect a lot of the time. If you take such characters as Jesus and Buddha, and perhaps it would be more correct to say that they are the only enlightened ones for being in that state almost all the time, and being able to achieve a lot of feats that most of us, 99.99% of all of us, can't. But that doesn't mean that it won't ever be possible for us. And it's quite possible that a lot of us are very enlightened to a certain degree already. I think if we have a good base understanding, and here's a very important difference. It's not just a rational understanding where we've read lots of things in books. It's an innate internal understanding where we understand it through practice. We understand the law of attraction and manifestation, for example, not just because we've watched 100 YouTube videos about it, but because we've put it into practice and we've seen it happen in our own lives. See, any type of understanding is not just something that we can understand from someone else. That's not true understanding. We have to assimilate it into our own lives and act upon it and see it react in our own life to fully gain true understanding of it. Although there are many things that I feel I cannot do at this time, there are also many things I feel like I can, which is super exciting. I can imagine that certain people will feel offended by me comparing myself to people who have done really incredible things and inspired a lot of people. But really, one of the main aspects behind this is that we're all more capable than we think we are. And it can be really powerful to look up to someone and to be guided by somebody else's action. But it's equally as important to see how much we all embody that same power within us. And I know that can feel really scary. It's scary to have that much responsibility, but the fact is that it's there. So why avoid a truth that is unavoidable? Then we're just creating more darkness about ourselves. We are trying to escape responsibility for our actions and our power, which will only create more darkness and more pain in the world. But rather, when we take responsibility and see all of our own potential for enlightenment of ourselves, of our world, of each other, then we can truly start to act upon that power in a really effective and beautiful way. I really think all of us hope to live in a beautiful world, and that may look different to everyone. But there is space for everybody's different to coexist. But for as long as we keep staying shrouded within our darkness and our disbelief and our negative thinking patterns, we won't get closer to what we truly want. But you have the choice to change whenever you want to. And the beautiful thing is, if you are dealing with your interests of self-growth and self-understanding from a place of love, all the things that you learn are going to compound on themselves, and it's going to grow drastically, very quickly, and you're going to start creating a life that you love. And this is really what enlightenment is about. Well, at the base, it's understanding that we have this innate connection to the Creator, God, the universe within us. We are all part of that same cloth. God did not take something outside of itself to create us. Imagine this is now Taya, and this finger exists in a world where it can only see the other fingers, because that's all. Imagine it has eyes, that's all the fingers can do. They can only see each other. But that doesn't mean that the hand is not a part of the bigger picture. Just because we cannot see God does not mean that it is not here with us, within us at all times. It does not mean that I am not part of God, because we all are. And that means that we all have this innate ability to be enlightened. And in fact, we already are. One of the best examples for an enlightened being is a baby. A baby is just taking in everything around it and living its best life in the moment. And you can always see that blissfulness, that innocence, that curiosity within them. One of the core teachings of being enlightened is just being present and being here and appreciating what we have. A lot of the most enlightened people didn't have a lot of things around them. And a lot of us excuse how we feel on our surroundings. And I understand, I think most people have compassion and understand that it's reasonable to react certain ways. But that doesn't mean that reacting and being stuck in a mental pattern due to what your environment is, that doesn't mean that that is the most effective way for you to live your life or the most fun way for you. In the end, your life is about figuring out what you want, what you feel good from doing, what you want to experience. And if you're constantly living life in victim mode, thinking that you are less than, then you are choosing that you want to live a life of hardship, a life of strife, a life of struggle. Instead, you can switch it around now in this moment and keep practicing that to start living a different life and to start feeling more enlightened and to start feeling like you actually have power in your life and that actually feeling like you can give back to other people. Truly wanting to be enlightened is not some kind of ego ploy. It is not something to feel bad about being or feel guilty about being, because what the greatest leaders and spiritual leaders have ever wanted is for you to embrace your power, for you to know that you can create what you want in your life, and for everybody to be able to feel that way. And if you can start with yourself, that is going to naturally inspire other people to embrace it within themselves as well. Essentially, I think being enlightened just means that you have passed a certain level of understanding, where you understand certain laws of the universe, you understand certain laws of the spiritual aspect of life, you understand yourself, you have experienced yourself outside of the ego, you have practiced different types of techniques such as meditation, for example, where you have developed a deeper understanding for yourself and the universe. But it doesn't mean that you have to understand everything. It doesn't mean that you have to sit on a mountain and meditate for hours every day or 16 hours a day. It doesn't mean you have to be vegetarian or be able to talk to aliens or anything else. It just means having a basic understanding of you and yourself and understanding what you want to create in your life and understanding how to feel internal peace. And this doesn't either mean that you have to feel internal peace all the time. It just means that you have the basic understanding of it. And when you catch yourself floating to a different space, you know how to rein yourself in and bring yourself back. It means that you have a personal feeling of confidence towards your hidden self, your unconscious self. There is so much that I know that I don't know. And I know that I'm not as developed in so many areas, but clearly there is a part of me that feels like I am enlightened because I have the basic tools for disconnecting myself from my ego and not basing my value off of that. I know how to connect to bliss. I've done that before. If I meditate and I think about the people I love, I've entered a state of feeling infinite bliss before. And being enlightened doesn't mean that you have to stay in this infinite zone of bliss forever for the rest of your life and just exist in it. It can mean that you know it and that you know of it and that you base your life from those key principles. In the end, whether or not you believe that you are enlightened or even believe that's something that's possible for you, know that there are so many abilities that you have that you are not connected with. There are so many capabilities, there are so many feelings, there is so much goodness that arises from you, not just the environment around you. There is so much innate goodness, joy, happiness, and love within your body that you can call upon at any time. You just need to work through your pain and know how to not be so stuck in it. In the core, maybe the biggest unknown is just how little we are aware of when it comes to our own power of goodness, especially because we seem to be extremely concerned about our own power of evilness at the moment, which is true. It is real. One aspect of goodness does not exist without the aspect of badness. But maybe, just maybe, it's time to reach into our goodness a little bit deeper and realize the expansiveness of that power which we have within us. With that being said, I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching another video, and I'll see you soon.